So Ricky Flex, you said this was a good movie. Tell me why.
Well, I think a big part of it is that it's an ensemble movie that actually had great character arcs. You know, you have your main one, Yelena, but you have other solid to very good character arcs shown through in this ensemble cast of minor supporting characters, right? So you have the Yelena character, right? There, we will have to bring up a question with Black Widow, by the way, and Scarlett Johansson now after this movie, and we'll get to that later. But Florence Pugh was awesome in this. She was really good in this. She basically had great chemistry with anyone that came across the screen. I think Lewis Pullman, like, was also great, and I think was a better casting choice than a Stephen Yeun for this. I'm not saying he's a better actor, but I think the vulnerability he brought to the screen, Stephen Yeun's a little too much of a star right now, I think, and would have brought too much charisma. I think Lewis Pullman was the right kind of person to play this kind of um, mental unstable character than like a Stephen Yeun, who I bet would have been great, but maybe a little bit too Mark Grayson when he should have been more like Bob, right? Or from like Bob from
Like
Top Gun Maverick.
innocent. He's innocent
Yeah,
compared to like Steven Yeun.
right. And then you have the other Thunderbolts, who I thought David, like the first act, it's hit or miss. I think for some people, for me, it was okay, but and the comedic parts didn't really hit as well, in my opinion, a little forced. But then David Harbour comes on the screen, and it's like, wow, he's funny. He's a funny guy. This accent, which I thought was a joke in Black Widow, now it's working for me. John Walker gets to the third act. I'm like, oh wow, some of these things are starting to piece together. Sebastian Stan, he's back as a Winter Soldier, kind of being that mentor figure to Yelena Belova. Now I'm kind of back on him. So like again, like you have the core character and villain that have good performances, but then you have these little minor supporting roles like your Sebastian Stans, like your John Walkers, like your Red Guardians that are good. And like when you have these core characters that are good, but also others that just is competent, that's going to at least raise your floor, to bring that analogy up for a second time today. Raise your floor of the movie to better heights.
This movie was great. Like, I think it's a great movie. At times I was like, this is a great movie, but just a good MCU movie, if that makes sense. Like this, like I say that because the climax of the movie is not, it kind of falls under like Marvel issues, right? Too powerful of a supervillain. How are you going to wrap up the story, you know? But in terms of the writing of the characters, it made sense. It did. But if terms of like what you're expecting out of a Marvel movie, a spectacle of a third act, and like that's kind of like what gives you a good Marvel movie. It's like you can tell like they're great performances, they're iconic heroes, they're written accurately, but can they land the plane in the third act? And that separates kind of like good movies, right? Good versus solid, like Marvel's. But this one, it the first two acts, I was like, holy shit. People that argue that this was the best movie since Endgame, I totally understood. If you looked at the first two acts, I would say absolutely it's on par with anything since Endgame. And I agree with you. The performances are spectacular in this movie. Everybody is freaking crushing it in this movie. Wyatt Russell, U.S. agent, plays it to a T, right? The guy, honestly, very funny for someone that has kind of a darker past. All these characters have a darker past. So I think that's why they were carefully selected. I think correctly selected for this team. Ghost, underserviced a bit with the script. And I think still nice jabs. And I think she still shines on screen when she gets her moments. David Harbour, I was skeptical going in. I was like, Red Guardian, do not be like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. I like his performance in this movie better than Bautista in Volume 2 or Volume 3. I rewatched Volume 3. There's so many like cringy Drax moments, and he's clearly such a joke, you know? But like Red Guardian has some weight to this role because of like the themes of loneliness and depression, needing somebody, the importance of family, right? Surrounding people that are struggling. To see his chemistry with Yelena Belova, I think excellent, you know? And he was funny. I'm just admitting he's funny. There's so many things I roll my eyes at. Look at Brave New World. Not one joke lands. Not one single joke. Here, most of what Red Guardian does is so good. And I think I give credit to the script and I give credit to David Harbour, right? He's a freaking good actor. He's like kind of a movie star, dude. I
He
love
is.
that guy.
He is, and I just think again, like there are weight to all the character arcs.
They're
You know, it wasn't just
perfectly
one.
selected.
Like Eric Pearson, he's like an MCU. He's the writer of this movie, and he's like an MCU vet. He wrote Thor Ragnarok with Joanna Colley. He wrote Black Widow. He's writing Fantastic Four this summer, or wrote, I guess I should say, right? So he's an MCU vet, mostly good experience there. And he was able to find a way again with the rest of the writing team, but again, he's like the spearhead of the group to find a way to somehow balance it out. And yes, was everything balanced, quote unquote? No, like you mentioned, Ghost. Yes, definitely an underserved character in this script. But honestly, if you had to pick somebody to sacrifice screen time for to keep it 2 hours, that would be the one, right? And
Yeah.
we have to get to another one. I know we have
No
to get to
spoilers
that.
yet. No spoilers yet. But I did want to talk about um Yelena and Bucky, because I think those two are very important, because what the MCU is starving for is like heroes to centralize around, you know? And I think first off, Bucky, if he wasn't there already, I think after this movie, you see like this guy, like when he was on screen in this movie and he has his couple moments in this movie, they're scene stealing. And it's like, it's also something about it's Sebastian Stan. This is the guy who got nominated for an Oscar. That's the guy who got nominated for 2 Golden Globes and won a Golden Globe. He's special. And he is interacting with multiple groups in the Marvel universe. He wants to stick around. And he had like this veteran type of vibe to him in this movie. At times, I was thinking, is he trying in this movie? But I think he's just so experienced in the MCU. You know, he just knows how to play a superhero and be a movie star, not just a great actor. He was like a movie star in this movie, you know? And then Yelena, we're looking for young, exciting actors. She is someone that can turn Yelena into a household name. She is the central figure of this new super team. And she is so awesome. You're right. Her chemistry is off the charts. You know, her and Lewis Pullman and Yelena are battling for the best performance in this movie. You know, in my opinion, and I think everyone is good, but I love their dynamic. I think Florence Pugh is going to be a central figure and a beloved member of the Marvel universe going forward when they desperately need it. And then Lewis Pullman is a better casting than Stephen Yeun was for this type of script and this person who seems so vulnerable. You know, at times can like um when he is the Sentry character, sometimes I had to convince myself, but he's not in the Sentry suit too much. He actually plays the part of the character better that is the Void, in my opinion, right? The one that can be taken advantage of by his feelings, right? And what he's going through rather than just being a pure superhero. I think that's a part where he was such a good casting. So those two I love, and we're getting central characters to freaking surround. And that also gives me hype. We're coming back.
Yeah, like similar to what I said before, I think Lewis Pullman and Florence Pugh put in good performances, right? And I like we could have a conversation about who is better, Black Widow or Yelena. We could have a conversation who's better, Florence Pugh in her Black Widow type role, or ScarJo in her Black Widow, right? We could have that conversation if we want, but so I think Lewis Pullman and Florence Pugh give great performances. And Sebastian Stan is just a movie star, bro. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking,
Yeah.
wow, I am literally the Red Guardian in the movie theater watching Sebastian Stan saying, he's so cool. He's so cool. And I also was thinking, damn, this guy could have been our Captain America. Imagine if Marvel locked this guy down to be Captain America. No offense to Sam Wilson and slash our former Falcon and Anthony Mackie, who is a movie star in his own right. But dude, he does not have Sebastian Stan's aura. Dude, again, the Red Guardian, like he's so cool comment. That was me every time he was on the screen.
He has aura for sure, but I think that also is just making the Winter Soldier character all that more popular. Like Yelena, right? Florence Pugh doing with Yelena, like Sebastian Stan after this movie, it's like holy, like this guy, his personal stock is going up, and as his personal stock goes up, and also his veteran experience in the MCU, the character stock goes up. You know, just make the Winter Soldier all him. Just do that. You know, I don't know if he could be Captain America. He's the congressman. He's a senator. I
Not
didn't really.
anymore.
I didn't. I know, but I'm saying I didn't love that direction that they went with the character, because like he was a spy for all those years against Americans. He's not really Captain America. It's hard to be Captain America in that aspect, right? Like Sam Wilson, like veteran, just like Bucky was, but never crossed the country. I feel like Sam Wilson, Falcon, Anthony Mackie, I don't think he could elevate himself. Like Falcon will never be an elite character. So it's like he becomes Captain America. You try and elevate Anthony Mackie. Like Sebastian Stan is so good and so experienced in this role, he could elevate the Winter Soldier, and he can kind of be the Captain America of this new Avenger team. He could just be his almost have right. There's only like 5 members of this team right now, and he's the most recognizable actor alongside Florence Pugh. He can just do his thing. He could just do his thing. So I kind of don't mind him not being Captain America, but I get it. Like, imagine the performance he would put in. How he could spin it and make it his own. And this guy's box office. He is a movie star. Anthony Mackie, he's in blockbuster movies, but do you consider him an A-list movie star? No, he seems like a product of the Marvel universe, if anything. Sebastian Stan is like that guy. That's what it feels.
Yeah, which is crazy because like if you look at the 2000s, Anthony Mackie was in dramatic roles, like like he literally was in Oscar-nominated movies.
Hurt Locker.
And yeah, Hurt Locker. Um, and now you look at him, it's like, oh, he had that Peacock show that failed, right? Like he was in that Netflix movie that sucked, like, and he's now Captain America. He's kind of a product of the MCU now that, like you said. So again, like Marvel's probably looking back at that decision and said, we could have done the transition then after Endgame to Bucky as Captain America. Even though with the spy shit, like you were saying, it was still like we could do it right now. And we can kind of get past that because of everything else going on at the end of phase 3, going into a new phase of Marvel. But now after being a congressman, him kind of like figuring out what he wants to do and already having Sam Wilson only one movie in, you already have a couple Avengers movies. You don't really like, we'll talk about the post-credit scene, but I have my own questions with the Sam Wilson character now, or even more than I did before. Now it's too late now. So what they have to do basically is, like Sebastian Stan elevating this Winter Soldier character, you need to somehow make this Winter Soldier character a key part of your future if you want to keep Sebastian Stan.
I think they will too. I think they will. I also yes, I don't know if he ever get a solo movie, but like you have to make a new Avengers movie, And I was thinking I might want to save this for the post credit actually, where a potential new Avengers versus Avenger movie. I think that would be on the table. I would love if that would come before Doomsday, but we are on a time schedule here. It would be rushed, obviously, and I don't know if they really thought that through and they wanted to get another Avenger movie up and running. But I think if they were doing a proper build up, that would be a good setup. That post credit, not only to have Fantastic Four, but to then have these two teams kind of rivaling to be the Avengers squad. And this is spoilers. If this is spoilers here because we have to talk about one of these characters here that was promoted in the film. So spoilers, go watch the movie, then come back. Officially been warned. Taskmaster. So we were discussing in our 10 bold predictions what's going to happen with Taskmaster. It'd be too easy to just assume that she would die early on. And we thought maybe the Void would take control of Taskmaster and then she would be brought back. There's got to be some trick up Kevin Feige's sleeve for this character. But no, Taskmaster shot dead. I was shocked when that happened, when she was taken out, I think by Ghost during that 4-way assassination scene set up by Valentino. Amazing setup for the movie, by the way. I think it was the right decision. I got to be honest, I laughed. I thought it was funny when Taskmaster was shot dead. I give Marvel, I think, too much credit with the promotion sometimes, and this is when I notice, like, maybe they're not trying to throw a wink at us. Maybe they're literally just saying, do not expect Taskmaster in this movie because we're not promoting Taskmaster. And also the character didn't really move the needle. Black Widow, a lot of us saw it on streaming. Did okay in theaters. No one cares really about that movie. Well, people love Yelena, but she's been in multiple projects. I kind of love the idea that they shot Taskmaster. I feel bad for the actress, but that character, who really cares? That's all I got to say.
Let me say this. I laughed the hardest at 2 points in this movie. One was when David Harbour saves that little girl and is bending down to get on her level, and then the Void gets the girl.
that I did not laugh. That was like, "Oh shit," type of
I
moment
was
for me.
like, "Oh." I was like, "Holy shit, Marvel has it in their bag." Wow.
That was
Disney.
terrifying.
I was shocked. I was laughing out of shock. I was like, I did not expect a Disney production to do this. And then it was the Taskmaster death. That was like something where, again, we did the bold predictions, but did we really think that Taskmaster was going to live? No, we didn't. But we were trying to do something with the bold predictions. Um, it was completely the right decision because we talked about how hard it is to try to balance out character arcs in an ensemble cast, especially in a superhero movie that isn't 3 hours. That's a pretty tight 2 hour 2 hour 6 minute movie. So we already talked about Ghost. Maybe they could have killed Ghost off too, right? Or just another character to kind of help out already. But it's like, all right, when you're already competing for time, and Taskmaster was clearly the bottom end of the list, along with probably Ghost. It's like, let's just get rid of one of these. Probably the direct to streaming movie villain that failed a little bit, and then we can keep going with our story, our script.
It was a way to kinda weed out old storylines. I found this the same way where they're trying to, like, I think I was mentioning it with Brave New World, where they're just trying to, like, get this out of our system and these storylines, and then we can kinda start fresh. Let's get Black Widow out of our system. No, like, hanging threads. Just cut the ties. We are done with Taskmaster. This interpretation of the character has not been successful. It's a cool character, but the interpretation has not been successful. No one's saying, "I wanna see more Taskmaster," aside from a few on the internet, maybe. So, I think it was a good decision, and having Ghost is enough. It's like Ghost, no one really cares about, like, the Ghost storyline, and I think a big mistake is not really going into Ghost at all because no one remembers what she went through during Ant-Man and the Wasp. No one remembers. So, I think, like, when they showed the background and the trauma of a John Walker, which I think was really effective with US Agent, and then to show Yelena, I think maybe you coulda had a trauma throwback, not a throwback, but like, you know,
I know what you mean.
a visit to
Flashback.
the void, you know, for that character to kinda give some background. It would've been very Marvel if they did that because it's like, "Hey, remember this person?" But I think it might have been necessary for the Ghost character, but you can't have 2 ghosts, you know? That's why you gotta get rid of Taskmaster. Badass character. You give one kind of good fight sequence for Taskmaster, but they kill her so early. I was like, damn, I feel bad, but honestly, good riddance. Any other thoughts on Taskmaster before we keep going?
We did get a bold prediction right with her with that character. We'll say that.
What? First victim of the void, we said. What
Screen
else?
time.
Yeah, we got screen time. That is maybe the only one we get.
Yeah, this was definitely the worst bold predictions we've ever done.
Yeah.
But we're coming off a really good one. So this kind of evens out the playing field.
So Taskmaster dead. What do you think of the design of the void? And like it's like a dark silhouette. You have the Sentry reveal. You have an interesting action scene that we'll talk about with like Bill Pullman. Or is it Bill Pullman? Bill? No, it's
Lewis
his dad.
Pullman.
Lewis. Yes, Nepo baby, good Nepo baby. But him becoming the Sentry and then turning into the Void, the the brightness of the Sentry, you know, versus the dark silhouette. I think it's like a pretty cheap way, like in terms of literally not like cheap in terms of like thought process, but in terms of like monetarily to do. And also, I think was a pretty cool design. I love how you just saw his eyes and he was a shadow himself and he's casting a shadow on these other people. And he was pitch black, pitch black. You could not even make out like the expressions because you knew he had the same expression the entire time. But what do you think of the dark silhouette type of design?
I like the design more so than how it actually looked on it, or the concept. I like the concept of it matching the actual void, the shadowy figure, than actually how it looked. I think it didn't look great. It didn't look bad. I thought it was just fine. I just like the concept more than actually looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Like they didn't have to make another costume, you know. Like
Yeah.
for me, it felt like it's kind of a way of showing like we don't need to like make this like super comic booky. We can make and get away with this type of look. It
And
felt like an independent filmmaker saying, we could just do this. You know, it's as easy. We don't have to overthink it. Let's shoot this, get this done, make it a silhouette.
and again, going back with concept and Sentry, when Bob becomes Sentry with the yellow suit, I think like when I first saw it, I was like, "Ah, it's a little corny." As the first thought,
It's kind of supposed to be.
you
Am I
know,
right?
right. So I was like, eh. But then as we go on throughout that fight scene, and then he becomes the Void, I'm like, I guess it does work, right? It's supposed to be like that a little bit. I think it was kind of effective.
The action scenes, man, like the one that sticks out is when he walks down as Sentry and he's supposed to be this molded hero. He's not naturally a hero. It feels like he's playing Halloween dress up a little bit. For me, it kind of works. He's got the slick back hair, but it doesn't feel natural, you know? Like Lewis Pullman looks innocent, but he doesn't look like a movie star to me. You know, he looks kind of like an average guy. So therefore, like Sentry kind of looks like a badass. I don't get that from Lewis Pullman, but that scene, CGI is a little sketchy, but I love that scene.
Definitely.
It was like the knife stabbing, like it looks like it's not really stabbing his face when Red Guardian does it, and the blade bends. There's like bullets like going off of him, and it doesn't look great. It just doesn't. But it was just great to have a scene that showed how powerful he is, and how this guy is such a force, and he is this universe's Superman, but he's too dangerous to even be the Sentry. That's how dangerous the Void is, which makes him a unique character. Where it's like, when do you unleash him? Can you afford to run the risk of the Void coming out if he is the Sentry? But I think that scene, like when Red Guardian gets thrown through the glass and then he's pulled
Yes.
back by Sentry, like the Void would not give a shit. Like the Void would just like send that guy into the shadow realm, like goodbye, you're done. But to see like, hey, I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm just about to scare the shit out of you. I'm going to throw you out there. I'm gonna catch you. He had the entire squad running back to the elevator like
Yeah.
bitches, bro. He was insanely superpowered. But when I saw that scene, I'm like, there's no way they could beat this guy. There's 0%
No.
chance.
That's what in the bold predictions, like why, like we didn't know what the void was going to be exactly, but like I know, like I referred to back in our bold prediction, I was saying the void has to be some way to emotionally get at the Sentry character Bob. Like it had to be because you just knew looking at the cast of the Thunderbolts, nobody was going to beat this guy.
No.
You know, so you knew that they were going to beat him through the void and potentially a Yelena sacrifice, which technically happened, by the way. So technically, so it's again, Sentry is he maybe a little too overpowered? Like, as in, maybe not over too bad. What I mean is like it's hard to write a character that is that powerful. That's why
Can he
Superman,
ever be used?
right? Like that's why Superman. We talk about like like Batman having such a great crop of villains, and Superman maybe not. And it's because you can't like say, "Hey, go Joe Schmo, go battle Superman," because it's not compelling. You know, it's not believable, quote unquote, believable in a fantasy project. But hear me out. It's just like it's hard to actually like write these characters in because they're so powerful. That's why like a Sentry has not been introduced in the MCU on the big screen. When you talked about it in the last pod, he was important in the Infinity Gauntlet comics.
Is he Was he the best hero for this type of story against this super team, these heroes? No. Like if you're looking for a comic book type of movie, you know, and what we got is more about thematically. It's him struggling mentally and needing help, needing like his friends, you know, and to try and help him right throughout these tough times. And a guy who's had such a traumatic past. But in terms of a villain, Thunderbolts. This it was like that seems like watching Justice League when Superman like came back to life and Superman was turning into a bad guy, and then you had Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash trying to subdue Superman, and they couldn't. But the difference is this guy is just as strong as like the Henry Cavill Superman, but the Thunderbolts are like all humans, you know? So it just made you realize and kind of I guess, confirmed our thoughts and our nerves going into this movie, like, how are we gonna take this guy down? And honestly, they took him down in if you're going And
Say
looking
it.
at a Marvel movie,
Say it.
it's kinda soft. It is soft. They hug him, and then that's the resolution to the climax. And that's why I'm saying it's a good movie because that's what it's building to. This guy needs help. It's a bunch of loners and people that have had dark pasts and losers that are coming together and finding solace in one another and finding family and helping them through these hard times. It makes sense to have it, I get it, but this is a blockbuster action movie, right? And I think the first 2 acts have such cool action scenes. Even like the first one when it's basically 1v1 between and V1 when Taskmaster's in the movie and Ghost and US Agent and Yelena. Then you have the Bucky moment, which is like Terminator 2, like Bucky, and then like holy shit, like Sebastian Stan is just the movie star in this movie. And then you have the Sentry, all powerful like hero, and you got guys bouncing off him. He's throwing people out the window in the new Avengers Tower. And then you have that scene, a hug to kind of end it. I get it, but it kind of makes it from being a great Marvel movie, it takes it down to being good to me.
Yeah, again, we talked about it in our bold predictions pod, kind of previewing Thunderbolts. Like this is what happens when you have a character that's just too superpowered, too OP. You know,
Mhm.
we saw this coming, and with Marvel, who has a bad history of bad third acts, like or bad is probably a strong word, but just
Weak.
just awkward, flatlining third acts. Like you knew like this was gonna come, you knew it, but the thing that just still was fine about it is that it made sense. It was competent, but that also goes back to our expectations of the where the MCU is right now, right? Like if this was 2021, Shang-Chi era, would we be saying that? Because Shang-Chi, again, another movie with third act problem, right? We gave that a really, really harsh feedback, right? Well, I know me and you are doing that right now for this third act, but I'm not seeing as much backlash against this third act online right now as I did when Shang-Chi came out. And why? It goes back to our expectations.
It does go to the expectations. I think people kind of I think people are gonna be quick to defend it because like it kind of makes sense. Like a guy, independent filmmaker coming to Marvel, trying to make this like these big comic book characters, create a more intimate story, relatable story, and especially in the year 2025. And when it comes to mental illness, it seems like this or mental health, this is a really relevant theme to have in the movie, but it's a little soft. It's just soft. I'm going to tell you how it is. This was a soft ending and it's ending with a hug to take down a villain. People are Some people, there is a loud minority that is upset by this. I'm basically saying this is a good movie. The third act makes sense, but it's a reason why the third act's not as good as the first 2 acts. The first 2 acts are throwing so much fucking heat in this movie. Like if you had a different villain, you're like, this shit might be like up there with like, I understand why people think it's the best movie since Endgame. To me, it's top 3 between No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Thunderbolts. Do you think it's a top 3 post Endgame?
Since Endgame, so let me think for a second here. Um, okay, Far From Home, Far From Home, No Way Home. I'm trying to think what else. What else would be in the conversation there? So I wouldn't do the Marvels. I wouldn't do Brave New World, obviously. I wouldn't do Ant-Man, Quantum Manium. I wouldn't do Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm just looking at this list. This is still better than Wakanda Forever. Still better than Doctor Strange 2. I obviously Eternals, also Shang-Chi. But yeah, I think it's a battle between the Spider-Mans and this. And then Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then I think it's better than Deadpool Wolverine on a movie basis. I think
Oh, yeah,
like,
definitely.
I think some people might argue with that. It's just that Deadpool Wolverine, I think, will be more rewatchable. And if you value that more and the humor in that and kind of those two performances of Hugh Jackman and the Ryan Reynolds combination, then yeah, you'll say that's better than this. But I don't. I'm looking at like the quality of movie more, and I'll say this. So yeah, I would say the two Spider-Mans, Guardians 3 and this.
I think this is I take this movie over Far From Home, which is post Endgame movie, but it's the same phase as Endgame. That is the last movie in that phase, I believe. It didn't
Correct.
kickstart the next phase.
Correct.
Um, I think this is better than Deadpool Wolverine. I think it's gonna be more. I actually think it's gonna be more rewatchable than Deadpool Wolverine over time.
Really, I see. I can't go that far because this third act again isn't rewatchable.
If this group becomes the new Avengers, like if they make another Avengers team, like Anthony Mackie gets his own Avengers team. I doubt they make an Avenger movie focused on his Avenger team. There's going to be a Thunderbolts too. I think. I think this is going to be. I think it's going to do well enough. I think there's going to be affinity for the characters, even if it's not overwhelming box office success. I think there's going to be a new Avengers movie after Doomsday and Secret Wars, probably. I'm hoping that Sebastian Stan will stick around for that. But I think people will return to the first movie. And like if you bring back the director and you have the same group of characters, such great chemistry, I think that's going to end up being more rewatchable. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine, like I watched it twice, I think, since it's been on streaming, and it just does not look good. It just really
But
doesn't.
it's funny, and you
Yeah.
like watching Ryan Reynolds. You like
Comfortable
watching Hugh
watch.
Jackman. I love Sebastian Stan, but like, and we have been on the Sebastian Stan bandwagon now for years. So like, this is arguably the biggest Sebastian Stan pro podcast there is. But he ain't Ryan Reynolds Deadpool / Hugh Jackman Logan combination on the screen for the first time post Logan movie, post Deadpool 2. I just don't. I think that combination just makes it so rewatchable. Even though you're right, maybe it doesn't look the best, but you have more iconic scenes. I'm thinking even there's the NSYNC opening scene, even right. So I don't know. I think there's problems with both movies.
It's a better blockbuster. Yeah.
Yeah, right. $1 billion movie.
Right. And to me, that's like Deadpool Wolverine is similar to No Way Home, where it was like great theatrical experience. Watch it at home. Like, is it going to hit the same? Absolutely not. I think Thunderbolts would hit similar in the theaters as it does at your house. I think that's what makes it a rare Marvel movie. I think it's a good Marvel movie because of that.
I think a good question for Thunderbolts is if this came out when Guardians came out, right? Like if this came out during that later beginning stage of the MCU, would this have been bigger?
Like middle phase 2. Like that's like
Yeah.
Guardians came out when Winter Soldier came out. Would we view Thunderbolts the same? I don't think they would have this type of ending back in 2014. I think it's a product of the time a little bit.
How so?
Because it's soft. Like I
Oh,
don't like I'm
yeah.
saying like have the climax end with a hug. I don't think they would do that in
Dude,
2014.
Guardians of the Galaxy, the original, one of the biggest like nitpicks of it is it's a dance off.
Yeah, and that's a nitpick, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't destroy the movie, but it's also that movie is known for the soundtrack. It's like it's not a great ending. I
Right.
feel like that's not a bad comparison. Guardians of the Galaxy first version to this movie. I don't think it's that far off. Group of losers and people that need to have a newfound family. Is there a better comparison than the first Guardians of the Galaxy to these Thunderbolts? What's the better movie? Entertainment wise, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's one of the most rewatchable movies ever. But I think in terms of quality of a movie, this one's pretty freaking good. It's close. I like the Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolts, like what is that?
I still take Guardians easily, but I think it's closer than people think.
Yes, and I think that's where you have to measure: are we overinflating this movie because of the era it's in? But I think if it came out earlier because of the success of the Guardians that has a similar template formula to this movie, it tells me it would be successful, I think, earlier on.
And what you just said there, that formula, this format of this Thunderbolts movie, I tweeted this out after like in my immediate reaction to Thunderbolts. That's why this one like had MCU vibes, like core, like prime MCU vibes to this movie.
Great chemistry.
Right. So and like, do I think the MCU is back? No, like definitely like no. That's not what I mean. Like I guess people when they say back, they have different terms. Like people think like Texas football is back, but they haven't won a title yet. So are they really back? But they are like contending for a national title. So like some people say they're back. I don't know. It's like I don't know. But the MCU, and this just tells me like they could still do what they used to do, right? Bringing in an indie director, like, and then also having an MCU veteran on the script. So you have a freaking Eric Pearson to kind of help out, like he did with a Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok, and you can kind of have that formula that we just talked about. I think that's a great sign for the MCU. So no, I don't think we're back, but I just think we are on a better trajectory now after Thunderbolts, and especially where we were in February, President's Day weekend, Captain America: Brave New World.
I have two more things before we get to scores. One, do you think that this could have been R-rated? Do you think that would have helped the movie if it was R-rated? And like it already, like how well is it going to do at the box office? A bunch of TV type of characters, right? A couple of like I would say relatively well-known actors, but I think there's some things that are touching pretty close to R-rated. Like when that little girl turns to the shadow from the void, terrifying. You know, I think the void could have been even more menacing in an R-rated movie. And think about like the subject matter here. There is things that the MCU is tackling here that's dark. There are there is the past and the trauma of the Lewis Pullman, right? The void and the Bob character, where it's domestic abuse in the household. There is a heroin addiction, meth addiction. I think that they bring up here. You got a chicken that's freaking on meth attacking people with a sign. That felt very Marvel, but also felt like, whoa, this person is on drugs. This is a Marvel movie. You got Taskmaster getting shot in the head. Do you think they could have leaned even harder into an R rating? And do you think that would have made the movie better?
I think it might have made the movie better, but I think they would do worse at the box office by a lot.
Okay.
Like
That
a lot.
so you had to make it PG-13.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. It should have been PG-13.
Had to be.
I think the movie could have been more badass if it was R though.
But that reminds me, dude. So we forgot to talk about our theater experiences. Okay, dude, I have a 30-second story. So I am away Thursday night, away from my core theater, AMC, but I go to a different AMC. And I'm running late. I'm running to make it. Just I get there just for the Fantastic Four trailer, and then right into Thunderbolts. Right. I'm going to sit down in my seat, and it's a packed IMAX theater, massive IMAX theater, really cool, like screening that I was at. But dude, I sat next to a baby.
That reminds me of my Endgame experience. I sat near a baby.
Yeah, I just again, why are you bringing? I understand like you can't get a sitter, then don't go to the movie. I'm so anti baby going to a packed movie theater for an event like an MCU event type movie, a huge blockbuster like that. You're bringing a baby in, and not even just for the baby's health, but for everybody else. This baby was crying throughout the movie, and I was sick of it. I honestly was.
From the perspective of the parent, you want to have your baby be a witness of the MCU returning. Hey, we're back. This is it. We're on the path here. Here
Is
comes
Jax on the other line here?
You gotta assume like that baby will be there for Doomsday, Fantastic Four, Secret Wars. They're gonna be if they went to Thunderbolts, this baby will be at all four of these movies the next 2 years, 100%. My theater loved this movie, loved it.
Mine
No
clapped
one
at
was
the
mad.
end.
What?
Mine clapped at the end.
Yeah, same. Like these, there was no one that was like that movie sucked. Not one person. And there are so many movies we've left during post Endgame era where people are just like quiet. No one's talking. The buzz in the theater was great in my IMAX screening, and the build up to the post credit, everyone was hyped up. Everyone was jacked up. I was so mad I saw the movie by myself because everyone was talking. I felt like I was a loser more so than anyone on the Thunderbolts team. I don't get to talk about how much this movie was ruled, to anybody else. I wanted to just eavesdrop and butt in on a conversation, but I couldn't do that. Okay. Other thing, I want to just give a shout out to Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I love this character. I like Valentina. You need someone in the Marvel universe that isn't superpowered but still super formidable. And I think that's what she is. She always has an ace, up her sleeve. She can always pull something. So the chips may be down and she'll still find a way out of it. I love how much of a schemer she is. I think the casting of Julia Louis-Dreyfus as like a schemer and someone that is like a force to be reckoned with. I'm a huge fan of this character and the way they ended this movie and they had her introducing them as like the new Avengers. I was like, damn, perfect. Did not see that coming. How she would walk through and then set up this press conference. And I made this. This wouldn't be possible without me. Even when Yelena saying, "We own you now, Valentina." No, you don't, dude. She's gonna be one step ahead because I think that's what makes her a good like secondary villain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think it's telling that we're not talking about her until now.
She's not on the team, and she's not super powered, but I think she's good.
No, I think she's good, but I think it is telling just by the fact that now that the new Avengers are assembled, we have that post-credit scene, and they clearly have their own, like, they don't need like a Nick Fury to tell them what to do. They're monitoring it all together on their own, seeing the Fantastic Four ship or whatever you want to call it, rocket come in. It's like she's not going to be like the Nick Fury. She's different. She's not going to be as important. And I think this, again, just this conversation, bringing it up now, I think is telling of that. But I do agree with you. She is good. I just think that maybe like this is probably the most screen time she'll get in an MCU movie, and it's still, again, was tough.
It'll be like the new Avengers movie. That's the next time you'll see her.
Yeah, and they'll use her in the same capacity as this one, if not like a Nick Fury. But again, that brings up like
Like Amanda Waller. That's like how I would describe her.
that's a better way to put it.
She's the Amanda Waller of the MCU. Yeah. Scores. Ricky Flex, I'll let you go first. What do you give Thunderbolts?
Yo, 80 out of 100.
81 for Dr. O. So that's a review.